is that without confusing the audience, they basically gave him a check and they didn't want to rework it for cap space, meaning we drafted a quarterback and, they don't want to offend Aaron. But I was saying this, people forget that when the Packers moved off Favre, they were 13-3. They got to an NFC championship. He had his best year in a decade, and he was a Pro Bowler. That Green Bay is almost cynical toward money and stardom. That's not what they do. They develop players. They take it's the Midwest small-town ethos. You're a Midwest guy, and Kansas City thinks that. Green Bay doubles and triples down on it. And I look at it and I think, it's not hard to figure out here. They're moving off Aaron fairly quickly. This is not a real debate, right?
Yeah, and that's why despite nearly 30 uninterrupted years of Favre and Rodgers, they have been to 3 Super Bowls and won 2. Because they have squandered and they have been more worried about staying good than being great. And Rodgers is going to continue to feel, call it anxious, if not a little paranoid, but it's not paranoid if they're actually out to get you, as long as Jordan Love's on that roster, Colin. And so, listen, if I were advising Brian Gutekunst, I would say, listen, man, maybe Jordan Love's going to be the next Aaron Rodgers, but more likely than not, he's just going to bounce around the league as a fringe starter. That's usually what happens with late first-round pick quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So here's what you should do. You should trade him to a team like, I don't know, Atlanta for their second-round pick. You should use your first-round pick and trade for Odell Beckham Jr. You should go out in free agency and, I don't know, bring back a guy like Casey Hayward, who you probably never should have let go to the Chargers. And you should go all in right now because you're 26-6 the last 2 years. You're in back-to-back NFC championship games, and you're very close. And it is staying good is overrated, and being great for a short period of time is underrated. Your beloved Tampa Bay Bucs understand that. They are mortgaging all of the mid-2020s for the right now, as they should. The Packers need to take a page out of that book, Colin.
I was saying this to start the show, is that I follow mock drafts. Everybody's into something, right? And I follow them. Tampa's the only team that is not addressing a need. They're literally drafting for depth. People are like, well, defensive line, if Ndamukong Suh doesn't come back, oh, he is. I mean, literally, they're just drafting for depth, maybe a running back. I said this morning, the only New England team close to this was 2007. They had 8 Pro Bowlers, but 3 on the offensive line. This is the most talented team Brady's ever played on. I mean, I honestly think that this morning.
I understand why you think that. I also think we are being a little reactionary to the Super Bowl as opposed to the entirety of Tampa's playoff run, where they were up 5 points against Washington in the fourth quarter, and Washington had the football against Taylor Heineke before Heineke got hurt. They were, in my opinion, struggling mightily against the Saints until Drew Brees really, unfortunately, in the final half of his career, melted down. And the Packers had every opportunity to beat them. I respect and appreciate what Tampa's doing. I think they're doing the right thing. I think they should be doubling down. But I also think you are relying on a lot of older and aging players, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, to get through another year as healthy as they did last year. I know Vita Vea got hurt, and have the same level of production. So I'm not criticizing their offseason, but I think Tampa's going to go into the year big-time favorites to get back to and win the Super Bowl, and that's not a bet I'm willing to make, even though as we sit here right now at the end of March, they do look loaded. And I've got to give Jason Light, their GM, credit. I didn't think they'd ever be able to keep all their top free agents, and they've kept all their top free agents, and we'll see if they're interested in keeping AB.
You know, we were saying this, that every year in the draft, there is a player in the NFL draft that just doesn't look like a college player. Chase Young, just draft him. Quentin Nelson. You can't draft a guard that high. He's the best guard in the league by a second year. Kyle Pitts at Florida. Zion was like that. Zion didn't look like a college athlete. Zion, in the NBA, most college kids come in, they get thinner because the travel, the sleep, they're struggling to keep weight on young players. Zion looks like he's been in an NBA weight room for 15 years. Are you even a little surprised at how dominant a scorer he's become?
I'm a little. Listen, you and I were as high on Zion as as any two people in America. You and I both said when he was at Duke, at Duke was a top 25 NBA player. He just wasn't in the NBA yet. And pardon me, folks were worried about his weight. They were worried about all this foolishness. And it's like, well, he's just stronger and can jump higher than anybody I've ever seen, and that seems to be useful in the NBA. I think he's going to be okay. What I am surprised about is that he is scoring at this level at 60% from the field. We've never, and by the way, the biggest criticism with the Pelicans, and I like Stan Van Gundy, but they need to have, and Brandon Ingram had a really good game last night. I think he had 36. It was a good revenge game for him against the Lakers. But they need to have a come-to-Jesus moment and make sure Brandon Ingram knows, this ain't your team, man. Because I'm sick, honestly, I'm sick of seeing Zion Williamson went 9 for 13. He needs to be going 12 for 21. He so many times you look at the box score, it's like, oh, Zion had 26 points on 11 shots. And so I'm a little surprised they're not letting things run through him more often.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons that they've had some late game failures. And I'm also a little surprised that nobody has been able to slow him down. Like, I thought he'd be a 20-point-a-game guy immediately. I didn't think it would be at what is record-breaking efficiency.
Yeah. So LeBron's second big injury in 3 years. He is older. Maybe it's just a coincidence. But I've seen this before. He does now. He doesn't have quite the stamina. The bubble was great for him, 4.5 months off. He looked like a completely different player defensively in the bubble last year. He was more rested. He's human. What do you make of the injury? Where does it sit with you? Is it the sign of age that Brady hasn't quite shown yet?
Oh, if it would have been another soft tissue injury like the groin, then I'd walk down that path with you more readily. This to me was, a guy rolls into his leg, you look at it, and I think, and Brandon Marshall said this on Monday, and he's right, I think for most guys, this is a torn ACL. If you look at how his knee flexes, I think LeBron was pretty lucky to get out of this with just a high ankle sprain. What it means for the Lakers is, when he comes back, they're going to be in 7th or 8th place.
Right.
And I don't know how much they care about standings. They won the title last year with 0 home games, so I don't think they have to worry about not having home court. But they are going to have to grind at the end of the year because until AD comes back, with no LeBron and no AD, that's a bad roster. But Colin, can I just throw something at you? Because I think you'll enjoy. Because you saw what happened after he got hurt, right?
Right.
So he gets hurt, and he has 7 points. At that point, he had scored 10 points in 1,035 consecutive games, longest streak in NBA history by a mile. They call timeout to take him out. And methinks LeBron knew he had 7 points and said, guys, I think I got one more shot in me. Because he went back in the game, hit his one and only shot at corner 3 to get to 10 points. Then they called another timeout, and now he's out a month. So I'm not saying that was a higher degree of difficulty and more clutch shot than Jordan's against Utah. All I am saying is that was game 6 that Jordan did his. They were going to have a game 7 even if he missed. LeBron was going to be, it was the streak over. He's been working on the streak since 2007, and he nails it. So I'm just saying, just add that to the little legacy bar. He suffers his second injury ever, has the self-awareness, I need to hit a 3 to get to 10 points. I can do that even though I basically have a broken leg. It's like Tiger at the Masters. Broken leg, still can do it.
I won't make that leap, but I think it is a fascinating point made by Nick Wright.
It's what people are saying. I'm hearing it. It's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing it's more, it's like the Ray Allen shot, the Michael Jordan shot, and LeBron's 3 in the corner against the Hawks in the second quarter in March. I think that's the list.
All right. If that's how it lands for you, it makes me happy. Nick Wright, first things first. Pleasure to see you, buddy. I do appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.